Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. So I'm here today with a pretty exciting video because we're going to be looking at the successful love changes coming to you as both Venus and Mars conjunct in the sign of Capricorn. So I hope you are looking forward to this. Let's do this. So first and foremost, just to go over a few different things, okay, we've got to look at some technicalities. Mars will enter into the sign of Capricorn on January 24th, and towards the end of the month, so the end of January, Mars and Venus will start to join up and make a conjunction. Now keep in mind that Venus will still be retrograde until January 29th, but moving into February of this year, both Venus and Mars will be direct in the sign of Capricorn. They will conjunct in this sign throughout the entire month of February, okay, the entire month of February, and also during the beginning of March, until they both move into the sign of Aquarius on March 6th. So on the same day, on March 6th, both Venus and Mars will shift from Capricorn to Aquarius. And what's further interesting about this is that Venus and Mars will both make the exact same degree throughout good portions of February as well. Now, Mercury will still be retrograde in the sign of Capricorn until February 3rd, and so to clarify, this astrology forecast is from February 3rd until March 6th, 2022. So, looking at that Venus and Mars conjunction after Venus and Mercury, so after the Venus and Mercury retrograde in Capricorn has occurred. Now, coming out of these retrogrades, you will be greeted with an opportunity to move forward. This is where you bring forth the lessons you have learned, and so it's as if you are putting what you have learned through these retrogrades, you're putting what you have learned to the test. Okay, so with all of that being said, let's get into your sign, which, by the way, watch for your sun, moon, and rising. Aries, sun, moon, and risings. So the Venus and Mars conjunction in Capricorn will transit your 10th house. So for the past 6 or 7 weeks, you've been really honing in on your career and social status. You've been doing a lot of internal work when it comes to your profession. You've been rethinking plans and strategies. You've been realizing what needs to end, what needs to be regenerated. This could be a way in which you approach success, for example. And throughout this process, you have matured greatly. You have considered the long haul, and you have had to be honest with yourself about your future, about the structure of your life even, and about the steps that you take in order to succeed. You've been thinking about the kind of money you want to make long term, the reputation you wish to have, the amount of work you can take on, and about where you see yourself 10 years from now, for example. But as Venus and Mars, they join throughout the month of February, you start to put what you have learned to the test. You put your plans and strategies into action. You begin implementing your skills and talents in a more structured, practical, and realistic way. Perhaps you get a promotion, or you are rewarded for your efforts, such as receiving a raise or receiving some type of recognition, or reaching a milestone even within your profession. Or maybe you start a new position, or you move career paths entirely. Maybe it's that throughout these retrogrades, you realize so much about your value and your worth, about the ways in which you are valued by members of authority, and by the company, by the organization that you work for. And if you are self-employed, maybe you realized a great deal about the value of your public position. So where you stand as a self-employed person within society, for example. And so you start to move with greater self-respect, with greater professionalism and responsibility. You move with greater caution and endurance, and you have a better understanding of how to tackle your long-term goals in a step-by-step manner. You have your eyes really set on receiving tangible and long-lasting results. Essentially, Aries, you are stepping into a new position of authority as a manager, as a boss, as a public figure, and as a social climber. Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So the Venus and Mars conjunction in Capricorn will transit your 9th house. So for the past 6 or 7 weeks or so, you have really been honing in on your higher education and further training. You've been doing a lot of internal work when it comes to your deeply held beliefs. Maybe you've addressed what you would like to train to become long term, or maybe you've looked into the information that's been broadcasted across the globe, and so you're starting to think in more respectful, mature ways. Or maybe your beliefs have changed. They have changed drastically. You've had these revelations, you've realized what needs to end and what needs to be regenerated. Like I said, it could be that throughout this process, you've been maturing greatly. You've grown substantially when it comes to what you know, when it comes to your truth, when it comes to how you deliver your truth even. Maybe you've been thinking about the honesty and integrity in association with these things. Or maybe you've been thinking about the type of living you wish to earn from the training that you're doing. And so as Venus and Mars, as they join throughout February, you start to put what you have learned to the test. You put your plans and your strategies into action. Perhaps your teachings, they become more structured, they become more defined. Or perhaps it's that you realize where you are limited, where you feel blocked. And so you begin building on something more substantial. You begin building on a more solid foundation, something that's more worthy and valuable long term. Perhaps you join a new educational course, or you further your training through a new training program. Or maybe you reach a certain milestone within the type of training you're doing. Or it could be that you take on a new public position. And this public position, it is professional, it's more formal. It could be even that you are rewarded for the training that you've been doing. So looking at your accomplishments there when it comes to training, when it comes to higher learning as well. Or maybe you receive recognition for what you've been studying. Then again, it could be that you establish a long-lasting belief system that strongly supports your future aspirations. It provides you with a new meaning, a meaning based on respect, integrity, commitment, and responsibility. Or it could be that you redefine your morals and your ethics. It's as if you are holding yourself accountable and you're willing to practice what you preach. And as you embark on this resurrected journey of self-discovery, so to speak, you move with patience and you move with self-respect. You are willing to wait things out if you need to. And I'm meaning here years. This could be decades of waiting. And so it shows the endurance of you. It shows your patience. Essentially, Taurus, you are stepping into a new position of authority as a teacher, as a student, as a trainee, as a believer, and as a traveler. Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So the Venus and Mars conjunction in Capricorn will transit your 8th house. So for the past 6 or 7 weeks, you have been really honing in on your emotional complexities and vulnerabilities. You've been doing a lot of internal work when it comes to the ways in which you bond with others, and also when it comes to your shadow. Perhaps you've realized how you limit yourself psychologically, or you've addressed your psychological blockages. Likewise, perhaps you have addressed your emotional blockages, why it is that you find it so difficult and challenging to open up to others, for example. Or maybe you've been realizing what needs to end when it comes to your unconscious, what needs to be regenerated. This could be an unhealthy way that you cope with loss, for example. Whether that loss be related to a family member or to something financial or to something in relation with your career, with your job. You've been realizing what needs to end when it comes to your unconscious, what needs to be regenerated. This could be an unhealthy way that you cope with loss, for example. Whether that loss be through a relative or something financial or through something in relation to your work. And so throughout this process, you have matured greatly. You've addressed the heavy stuff with honesty and integrity and commitment, or maybe you've had to set very clear and defined boundaries between you and certain people. You've been thinking about where you see yourself with said people later down the road. Or perhaps it's that you've had to set very clear boundaries when it comes to how you cope with things. But as Venus and Mars join throughout February, you start to put what you have learned to the test. You put your plans and your strategies into action. So for example, maybe you open up to someone that you trust greatly, or perhaps it's that you open up to somebody who has earned your respect over the years, or you open up to someone who is professional and qualified, or it could be that you are rewarded for your vulnerabilities. So by being raw, by being open, you actually gain a lot from that experience. Or it could be that you are rewarded for your patience and for your endurance when it comes to shared resources. So looking at any debts or loans that you may have, anything that you're paying off, it could be that things progress, okay? You start to see some movement, some forward movement. Or perhaps it's that you reach a long-term milestone that you've really been working hard on. Then again, perhaps it's that you undergo an internal transformation when it comes to your self-worth. This could be due to a life-changing event or due to a revelation that you have, or maybe it's loss that wakes you up a bit. It's loss that makes you sort of see things in a whole new light. Or perhaps it's that your relationships, they deepen, or you gain greater structure and commitment within your relationships. You feel so much more secure. Maybe you experience greater success just overall between you and people that you are close with. Or perhaps it's that you gain greater recognition. Then again, it could be that you set new long-term goals when it comes to intimacy and shared resources. Perhaps these goals, they are ambitious and you practice discipline in order to achieve them. Or quite possibly you achieve something in relation with investigation and research. Perhaps you receive a qualification within an occult subject, so looking at the likes of mysticism, spirituality, magic, crystals. Essentially, Gemini, you are stepping into a new position of authority as a financial planner, as a sexual partner, as a transformer, as an investigator, and as an occult subject researcher. Cancer, Sun, Moon, and risings. So the Venus and Mars conjunction in Capricorn will transit your 7th house. So for the past 6 or 7 weeks, you have really been honing in on your companionships and business partnerships. You've been doing a lot of internal work when it comes to the ways in which you cooperate with others, when it comes to how you negotiate with others. Maybe you've been recognizing common patterns, or you've been able to see how you manage yourself within your relationships. So looking at how you start them and how you end them, why it is that some can be difficult to navigate, but essentially you're looking at the role that you play and the ways in which you take responsibility within your relationships. And perhaps also you've been realizing what needs to end, what needs to be regenerated. This could be an unhealthy pattern, for example, that you seem to get caught up in, or it could be that you notice a recurring theme when it comes to the types of people that you attract. Now, throughout this process, the thing is that you have matured. You have had to think in more adult-like ways. You've been thinking about how to take responsibility for your actions within your relationships and the ways in which you discipline yourself within them too. But then again, it could also be that you've been looking into your commitments. So where your commitments lie within your relationships. But as Venus and Mars join throughout February, you start to put what you have learned to the test. You put your plans and strategies into action. Maybe your relationships, they feel so much more fruitful and rewarding because you have been doing that inner work, because you've been able to recognize your unhealthy patterns and you've been able to change things. Or because you've been able to take responsibility for the role that you do play. Or maybe it's that you are recognized for your hard work within your business partnerships. Your clients notice you, your customers take note of all the great things that you've been doing. Or maybe it's that you are rewarded for how you negotiate. And so in this way, you are appreciated by more people, which can lead to you receiving greater respect and greater recognition for your work. Or it could even be that you receive some type of qualification or accomplishment when it comes to business, when it comes to customer service, when it comes to the work that you do with your clients. Or you realize what is required when it comes to business. Then again, it could be that you remove yourself from certain types of people because you realize that you are worth more, suggesting a greater sense of self-worth. Or perhaps you put a plan of action into place when it comes to fears that you project, or when it comes to mistakes that you make, okay? When it comes to mistakes that you make within your relationships that you no longer wish to make in the future. Essentially, Cancer, you are stepping into a new position of authority as a significant other, as a business partner, as a team player, and as a competitor. Leo, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So the Venus and Mars conjunction in Capricorn will transit your 6th house. So for the past 6 or 7 weeks, you have really been honing in on your working life and daily duties. You've been doing a lot of internal work when it comes to your health and well-being. Perhaps you've addressed the amount of work you take on, or you've looked at your working life responsibilities. Maybe you've seen the effort that you put in by you versus the effort put in by other people. So looking at your colleagues, your work colleagues, or it could be that you've had to be honest with yourself about your health, particularly your physical health. So looking at what you can practically take on, or how you're eating, for example, or looking at how you feel within your body and just being very, very honest about any pains or aches that you have. Or just looking out for anything that feels off. You've been realizing what needs to end here, what needs to be regenerated. So if it seems as if everything is piling up, for example, maybe it's about asking for help, maybe it's about delegating tasks. Though essentially throughout this process, you have matured. You've been thinking about how you manage your daily routines and your duties, how your job is serving you, and really looking at how much time you physically have in one day. But as Venus and Mars join throughout the month of February, you start to put what you have learned to the test. You put your plans and strategies into action. Maybe you create an action plan when it comes to your daily routines and duties, for example, a plan that is practical and realistic, something that's a lot more structured, a plan that considers patience and discipline. Perhaps you are rewarded at work by your manager, or you receive recognition from your employer or from your co-workers. Or maybe it's that you reach a milestone at work, or perhaps you receive some type of new qualification at work, some type of new accomplishment. Then again, it could be here that you reach a milestone when it comes to your fitness levels, when it comes to diet. Same thing could be said when it comes to receiving a qualification for these things. Or perhaps it's that your mindset, it changes when it comes to your health. And so you put realistic and practical measures into place within that area. On the other hand, perhaps it's that you value your craft and your services. And so you know what? You decide to leave a working position, maybe. Or perhaps it's that you seek to level up. Or perhaps you realize how valued you are for your services by others. Or how appreciated you are by those who really see your efforts, by those who are thankful for your help. They're thankful for the services that you provide. Or perhaps it's that you level up when it comes to your health. Perhaps you reach out for a professional opinion, or maybe you become a person who is professional. So looking at professions quite literally within the health industry, for example. And as you approach these situations, you move with caution and you move with a strategy and with structure. You are aware of the building process that is required. Essentially, Leo, you're stepping into a new position of authority as an employee, as a service provider, as a timekeeper, and as an organizer. Virgo, Sun, Moon, and risings. So the Venus and Mars conjunction in Capricorn will transit your 5th house. So for the past 6 or 7 weeks, you have been really honing in on your love life and creativity. You've been doing a ton of internal work when it comes to your confidence, when it comes to your self-expression. So looking at maturing and looking at committing to yourself, or looking at how you can bring a level of professionalism to your creativity, to the artwork that you create. Or seeing how you can just level up in some way. Also, you've been realizing what must end within your romantic relationships, what needs to be regenerated. And throughout this process, you have matured and you have had to be honest with yourself about the longevity of your romantic relationships, and even looking at the longevity of your creations. Or perhaps it's that you've been having to just be very honest about the long haul when it comes to children, or looking at the likelihood of you having children. Yeah, you've been thinking a great deal about these things, or perhaps you've been thinking about the kind of money that you wish to make via your craft, via your hobby. You've been thinking about the structures and foundation of your artwork, about the growing up that you've to do also within love, and about how disciplined you can be towards play and fun and pleasure. But as Venus and Mars, they join throughout February, you start to put what you have learned to the test. You put your plans and strategies into action. Maybe you level up within your romantic relationships, for example, because you feel a greater sense of self, or because you feel so much more valuable and so much more worthy about yourself. Or maybe it's because you have done that inner work. And so the inner work that you've been doing, it's clearly shown within your love life. Basically, you can clearly see the tangible and practical results. And so it could be that you reap rewards. You reap rewards within your love, dating, or sex life. Or perhaps it's that you feel more successful when it comes to confidence, which within itself can be very rewarding. You may feel flirtier, friskier. Then again, it could be that you are rewarded for your creative efforts. Maybe more people see your work, or people are attracted to this new level of professionalism that you're bringing to the table. Or perhaps you start to see the effects of your hard work start to unfold. Then again, it could be that you start to put a plan of action into place when it comes to children. whether this be towards the children you currently have or deciding to have a child. Or perhaps it's that you start a plan of action when it comes to romance, when it comes to creativity, or perhaps it's even that you gain some type of accomplishment or a qualification when it comes to your creativity. And as you act on these goals of yours, you move with caution. You move with pragmatism. You take your time and you don't rush. Essentially, you, Virgo, you are stepping into a new position of authority as a lover, as a parent, as an artist, and as someone who enjoys their free time. Libra, Sun, Moon, and Risings. So the Venus and Mars conjunction in Capricorn will transit your 4th house. So for the past 6 or 7 weeks, you have been really honing in on your family life and living situation. You've been doing a lot of internal work when it comes to your emotional security. Perhaps you've been diving greatly into the past because you want to understand the role that you played, or because you want to address past mistakes. Or maybe you're taking on new responsibilities at home, or you've been addressing where your responsibilities lie. What are you responsible for, but what are other people responsible for within your family home? Or perhaps it's that you've been looking more closely at boundaries between you and family members. You have been realizing what needs to end and what needs to be regenerated. This could be in relation to how you approach family related matters, for example. And throughout this process, you have matured and you've been considering the long haul. So where you see yourself later on down the line, or where you see yourself when it comes to how you live and when it comes to who you live with. Maybe you've been thinking about how you feel when you are around certain people, or you've been thinking about how disciplined you are as a family member. Then again, it could be that you and your family, you have been undergoing some hardships. Okay, you have been facing some emotional struggles and difficulties. But as Venus and Mars join throughout February, you start to put what you have learned to the test. You put your plans and strategies into action. Perhaps you put a plan of action into place when it comes to your living situation. Perhaps it's that you are gradually saving for something in relation to home, or you're working towards a goal step by step when it comes to a family situation. Or perhaps you are working on yourself, you're working on your emotional blockages, on where you feel limited emotionally. Such things are then tied to your family history, and so now you are seeking to establish new structures. Maybe you've been working really, really hard on your past conditioning, and so you actually start to see the rewards of your hard work. Perhaps you feel emotionally rewarded in this way, or you feel this internal value. It could be that you feel so much more valuable, but these feelings, they aren't necessarily shown outwardly, okay? You're satisfied internally, which feels great. There's a deep sense of self-satisfaction. You know you've been doing the work and that you've been making progress. You've been sort of celebrating your wins in this way. Then again, it could be that you receive some recognition from a family member or from a close friend, from someone who truly sees you. They see into the deeper layers of you. Or perhaps it's that you start to see rewards associated with your boundaries. So because you have been setting boundaries, you see the results. Results that make you feel good within. They make you feel good about yourself. Results also that make you feel worthy. Essentially, Libra, you are stepping into a new position of authority as a family member, as a nurturer, as a homeowner, as a supporter, and as a parent. Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and risings. So the Venus and Mars conjunction in Capricorn will transit your third house. So for the past 6 or 7 weeks, you have really been honing in on your speech and communication. You've been doing a lot of internal work when it comes to your learning style. Perhaps you've been maturing when it comes to how you communicate. Perhaps it's that you've been choosing your words very carefully, or you've been looking into your fears in association with communication. So at the things that hold you back, okay, the things that can hold you back when it comes to communication, and also when it comes to your mindset. Or perhaps it's that you've been looking into the boundaries that you set via communication. Then again, it could be that you've been addressing how disciplined you are when it comes to learning, and so perhaps you've put in these new plans. So you've put new plans into place in association with your learning. And you've been realizing as well what needs to end, what needs to be regenerated. This could be in regards to a sibling matter, a cousin matter, for example, or it could be in relation to your studies, okay? So throughout this process, you've matured. Maybe you've been thinking about the things that you would like to work on, or about the new building blocks you wish to put into place so that you can succeed within the areas of learning and communication. But as Venus and Mars join throughout February, you start to put what you have learned to the test. You put your plans and strategies into action. Perhaps it's that you feel a greater sense of self-respect because you've made your boundaries very clear. Or maybe you are rewarded for the hard work that you have been doing, such as receiving recognition for your grades or for your dedication to a certain subject. Then again, it could be that you feel satisfied with the intellectual goals that you've achieved, or perhaps it's that you are valued for your word, or for your writing, or for your studies, or for your speech. Maybe you achieve success even within a sibling cousin relationship. You feel valued by them, or they recognize your efforts. Or perhaps it's that you gain some type of success when it comes to learning something new. Maybe you receive a qualification or an accomplishment. It could be that you set a new plan of action in place when it comes to driving, when it comes to school, but you're not in any rush. You take your time and you're willing to wait things out, and eventually you know you'll accomplish what you set out to do. Or perhaps it's that communication itself is so much more rewarding because you feel heard. You feel listened to. And this can result in you feeling valued for what you say. Essentially, it's you, Scorpio, that is stepping into a new position of authority as a student, as a writer, as a speaker, as a sibling, and as a cousin. Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and risings. So the Venus and Mars conjunction in Capricorn will transit your second house. So for the past 6 or 7 weeks, you have really been honing in on your possessions and your earning potential and your finances. You've been doing a lot of internal work when it comes to your self-worth. Maybe you have been thinking more about the long haul when it comes to your security, when it comes to your livelihood. So you've been extra careful and extra cautious and thoughtful about the money that you spend, for example. Or maybe you've been planning out your personal accounts with greater organization. There's a level of seriousness here when it comes to your materials and your banking. Then again, as I say, it could be that you've been reestablishing your self-worth. Your inner security has been brought to question. And so therefore, you've been working on an action plan. You've been realizing what needs to end, what needs to be regenerated. This could be something that redefines how you value yourself, for example. And throughout this process, you have matured. Maybe you've been thinking about your foundation or about your long-term investments, about your long-term financial position, or maybe you've been thinking about how your materials today will serve you long-term. But as Venus and Mars join throughout the month of February, you start to put what you have learned to the test. You put your plans and your strategies into action. Perhaps you structure your earnings or your savings in a new way. Or maybe you decide to seek some type of professional advice when it comes to money. And this makes you feel at ease. Or maybe you feel more substantial because of how much effort you've been putting in at work, or because of the amount of recognition you receive for your financial efforts. Then again, it could be that your dedication to your skills is recognized, your talents are recognized. So if you've been working on something for a long time, maybe the fruits of your labor, they start to show. Or it could be that you are valued for your honesty and for your integrity when it comes to material matters. So by being straightforward, others respect you. And as I mentioned a moment ago, perhaps it's that your organizational skills, they improve in some way. Or it's that you are rewarded for your skills. Perhaps you are rewarded for your high level performance. Essentially, Sagittarius, you are stepping into a new position of authority as a spender, as an earner, as a saver, and as a worker. Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and risings. So the Venus and Mars conjunction in Capricorn will transit your first house. So for the past 6 or 7 weeks, you have really been honing in on your life path and your identity. You've been doing a lot of internal work when it comes to your temperament. Maybe you've been addressing your path, the things that you would like to accomplish and achieve, the things you have already accomplished and achieved. Maybe you've looked into the story that is your life so far, what steps you have taken, what mistakes you have made, how you have overcome obstacles, how you have moved forward from difficult situations. Yeah, it's almost as if you have been reviewing your life and just how far you have come. You've had these revelations, but perhaps you've also realized what needs to end, what needs to be regenerated. And throughout this process, you have matured. Perhaps you have outgrown outdated versions of yourself. Or maybe you've been thinking about things that you would like to take more seriously. Or you've been thinking about new chapters that you have to look forward to. But as Venus and Mars join throughout the month of February, you start to put what you have learned to the test. You put your plans and strategies into action. Maybe you level up because of all of these revelations that you've been having. You see how you can perform better, how you can work smarter, or maybe you are recognized for your ability to take accountability for your actions, for your ability to put your hands up and say, hey, you know what, that was me, I did that, and this is how I've changed, or this is what I learned from this experience. Or perhaps others are drawn to you because of how much you have worked on yourself. They recognize how much you have matured. Or maybe it's that you are recognized for how you look. Or it could be that others recognize the ways in which you value yourself. Honestly, these retrogrades in Capricorn have done something to you. They have instilled new values in you. And so coming out of these retrogrades, we are noticing this entirely new version of you, and it is amazing. Perhaps these remarkable changes, they result in rewards and success. Then again, it could be that you are rewarded for how you approach new situations with integrity and with self-respect. By you coming across as honest and direct, others pay attention. They see you and they appreciate you for behaving in such a way. Or maybe you are rewarded for your ability to manage any situation that you enter into. Essentially, Capricorn, you are stepping into a new position of authority just as a human being. Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and risings. So the Venus and Mars conjunction in Capricorn will transit your 12th house. So for the past 6 or 7 weeks, you have really been honing in on your spiritual journey and healing. You've been doing a lot of internal work when it comes to your shadow, when it comes to your blind spot. Perhaps you've been addressing how rigid you can actually be, or how controlling you can be, but it's just that you're not aware of these things, you're not aware of these qualities about yourself. Or maybe you've been looking into your inner fears in association with career, in association with reputation, and so on. Perhaps you've been working so hard on yourself behind the scenes. You've been attempting to tap into your inner power. Likewise, perhaps it's that you have been addressing how hard you can actually be on yourself. You can give yourself a hard time behind the scenes. But naturally, you've also been greeted with blockages, with limitations. And maybe you've realized what needs to end, what needs to be regenerated. And throughout this process, you have matured. Maybe you've been thinking about how often you check in with yourself, or about the amount of work that you do behind the scenes, or you've been thinking about letting go of things that you can't control. So looking at acceptance. But as Venus and Mars join throughout February, you start to put what you have learned to the test. You put your plans and strategies into action. So this could look like you materializing what you have learned internally, or this could look like you actually doing the work, so actively working through your fears, actively working on your controlling shadow, or actively deciding to move forward from difficult situations, or just having the ability to let go and move on. You do have the tendency of replaying the past, of becoming stuck in situations. You can get caught up in past mistakes as well that you've made. You can beat yourself up greatly. And so maybe this is an opportunity for you to let things rest. Or perhaps this is about you resting more, relaxing more, having an off switch. And perhaps you decide to step away from the spotlight for a certain period of time, or maybe you are recognized for all the behind the scenes work that you've been doing on yourself. This could be an internal recognition, or maybe you begin putting new structures in place when it comes to checking in with yourself. You discipline yourself to do this, or you manage your time to ensure that you do this. Then again, it could be that you feel more patient, more reserved when it comes to your spiritual interest. You feel so much more valuable, like you don't have to prove yourself to anybody. Or it could be that you set a new plan of action into place when it comes to healing, but you don't feel this need to rush. You understand that healing, it's a process. Essentially here, you Aquarius are stepping into a new position of authority as an intuitive, as a healer, as a peace seeker, and as someone who retreats. Pisces, Sun, Moon, and risings. So the Venus and Mars conjunction in Capricorn will transit your 11th house. So for the past 6 or 7 weeks, you have really been honing in on your visions and your hopes and your future plans. You've been doing a ton of internal work when it comes to your group involvements. Perhaps you've been looking into your responsibilities and duties within groups. So looking at your friendships or clubs that you are a part of here, or maybe you've been addressing the role that you play within society as a whole, what you offer as an individual, but also what other people offer. Or perhaps it's that you have been considering the longevity of your future plans. You've been thinking over your long-term wishes. So what you would like to achieve in the future, but then questioning if it's practical. Perhaps there are things that you would like to do, but they still need to be planned out. Or maybe you've been working on your boundaries when it comes to friends and so on. You've been realizing what needs to end, what needs to be regenerated. This could be in relation to how you approach friendship matters, for example. And so throughout this process, you have matured. Maybe you've been thinking about the effort that you put into your group involvements, or you've been going over where you see yourself later in life when it comes to certain groups. As Venus and Mars, they join throughout the month of February, you start to put what you have learned to the test. You put your plans and strategies into action. Maybe you join a particular club that is reliable, and as you do, you put your best foot forward. You wish to perform really well. Or maybe you receive some type of recognition for your performance. You are rewarded for your performance. It could be that you are rewarded by clubs that you are currently a part of. Your participations, basically, they start to pay off. Or maybe you are recognized for your non-conforming ideas, for your ideas that aren't so mainstream. And by being recognized, this feels really good. It could be that you are valued for what you bring to the table as an individual. You're valued for your unique point of view. Then again, it could be that you recognize your self-worth within groups. And by doing so, you actually end up walking away, and instead you seek after people who respect you, people who are honest and straightforward with you. Or maybe it's that you end up meeting a few influential people who you look up to. Perhaps they share their stories of success with you, or maybe you feel like you're a part of something greater when you are around them. Then again, through you recognizing your self-worth within your groups, it could be that you feel more connected with certain members within those groups that you're a part of as well. Though essentially here, Pisces, you're stepping into a new position of authority as a friend, as a team player, as an acquaintance, as a future planner, and as a visionary. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video all about the successful love changes coming to you throughout the month of February and the beginning of March, as we discussed the Mars and Venus conjunction in the sign of Capricorn. Now, if you do happen to have any thoughts and opinions on today's video, then please be sure to let us know in the comment section down below. But with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing as always. And if you did like this video, then make sure that you give it a like. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!